Okay, so in the next hour, or in this hour, should I say, delighted to welcome Simon Laskey. He's an accountant based in Kettering to NN Startup Day. And Simon's going to be talking to us about what he can do to offer startup businesses or those starting a business with some useful tips, I suppose, of tax. So I'm really looking forward to this. I don't know how we've managed to get through today without actually not avoiding this bit. But yeah, tax. So do you want to give us an introduction to yourself, Simon?
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Simon Laskey. I'm a tax accountant based in Kettering. Broadly speaking, that means that I've qualified as an accountant, but I also then went on to qualify as a tax advisor. So the work that I do for people, all sizes of businesses, but with startups particularly, is making sure that every decision they're making when they're setting up has the end game for tax in mind, rather than getting through a year and then realizing they could have done something differently.
Yeah, fantastic. And when we talk about tax, obviously there's a lot of in-depth, it's not straightforward. There's a lot of little different things that can make a difference on people's tax returns. And I'd imagine it's quite exciting when you actually look through people's accounts to actually work out how much, sort of tax you can actually save them.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, exciting. Yeah. I mean, people joke and laugh at, accountants getting excited about things, but you're absolutely right. If you meet people and you can say to them, look, if you'd have done it this way, which is the way you were going, you'd have paid this much tax. But actually, because we had that conversation and you mentioned that you were doing X, Y, and Z, we can bring all that together, or we can plan for it, and we can get that tax bill down before we get to that position. And to be honest, Simon, it's not always that complicated. Sometimes it's really simple steps, just by doing things at the right time. Just knowing having that knowledge to know how to approach things can make a massive difference. And it doesn't always have to be trusts and complex strategies. It can just be simple day-to-day decisions.
Yeah, and I think you touched on something quite interesting there. It's kind of not complicated if you know what it's all about. But if you were starting a business, I mean, people can get quite easily lost in this headache, this concern, especially if they're moving from employment into the business world or a small business, and they've always been used to someone managing their payroll, and all of a sudden now they've got to work on their own tax situation themselves. So what would you say to anybody that is looking to start a business, or maybe has started a business, that is finding themselves in that position?
You're not alone, basically. I think pretty much every person I've ever met who's become self-employed, it does exactly what you just said. They're used to getting a pay slip every month. They don't probably really think about their tax. They might look at how much they're paying, but when you're employed, you're pretty powerless. There's not a lot you can do to change what's happening on your pay slip. So then they leave their job and they become self-employed, and then people start talking to them about, don't forget about your tax return, making tax digitals coming down the road. Have you thought about VAT? You're going to be a limited company, a sole trader, or a part? And people go, what? I don't know where to start with this. So my advice would be, find an accountant, go and have a coffee, and just have an informal chat and get all your questions out there. Ask them everything you've heard about. Ask them anything you can possibly think about, and the accountant will talk to you and will say to you, they've done it so many times before. Have you thought about what structure to do your business with? Are you working with someone else? Is a partnership appropriate? And it's all the things, which is what you said. You don't know what you don't know. So until you have those conversations and speak to someone that you can get a good relationship with and a good rapport with, you will feel miles better after that first meeting. And what you will also find that with an accountant, when you speak to an accountant, a tax accountant, they'll then take away a lot of the pain for you. So you'll end up with pretty much a bullet list of all the things that you need to do to get off the ground and get started, just to make sure you notify the revenue when you're supposed to. Again, simple things, but you wouldn't know them. So the accountant will take that pain away and will leave with the checklist and sort them out for you. And then obviously, as the business develops and grows, you work with your accountant alongside, and they keep advising you and pointing you in the right direction.
Yeah, and you mentioned about businesses growing and working alongside an accountant. Again, that's a really valid point as well, because people see accountancy as, you doing the recording of the transactions, or maybe accounting for past historical data, but you can actually project forward, can't you, with obviously helping a business owner move forward with communication, working closely with that business owner to actually look at how they can maximize tax allowances or profit, so they can actually be aware of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're totally right. I mean, we're called bean counters, aren't we? People think that accountants basically add stuff up, put it into sheets and formats that the revenue like, and then send it off, which we do. But what you should be doing, or what I like to do, and I think would recommend to anybody who's thinking about it, is exactly plan ahead. Work out where you want to be at the end of the year. Think about, what's realistic? What's my turnover going to be? That first week, when I sit down at my desk and think, right, what am I doing this week? How much money am I going to make? And you might be in a situation where you really don't know. You might be in a situation where you've got contracts lined up all over the place and you're raring to go. But working with your accountant, you can start to forecast your cash flow, work on your business plan, forecast what your profit might even be for the first year. Maybe you do if it's a difficult year, I think I'll make this much. And if it's a great year, I think I'll make this much. Then you can work out, right, what's the best strategy for that? So maybe if you're going to have a fantastic first year, you go straight to a limited company, you start saving some money on your tax. Maybe if it's almost you're going to try it for 6 months because you've got the opportunity to, keep it simple, do it as a sole trader. But you'd be absolutely right. Plan everything ahead. Accountants, people do laugh at accountants that we're just reporting and recording and we're always a year behind, which we are to some extent. But really plan ahead, get it right. And then when you do get to that point, when you're doing your tax return and your taxes, there's no surprises because you've worked it out as you've gone along. The other thing to keep in mind with making tax digital coming along and all the cloud accounting and the opportunities there are for real-time recording, producing month-end accounts, if you do the bit in the month, is very simple. So you can have real-time information all the time, which is a big change from if I wind back 10 years going to see clients and saying, how's the year been? The answer often was, I don't know. So now, But now you can be in a better position.
And you touched on the RTI, the real-time information. I mean, that's essential for businesses, I think, isn't it, that are really keen to grow as well, because obviously it's given them almost live data, isn't it, with regards to where their business is at. And I suppose it's quite interesting when you see businesses actually going on that journey as well, and actually knowing that the work you've done has actually added to their success. I guess it's quite motivating.
Yeah, it's a difficult one because certainly in terms of helping them report and record at the right time and helping them understand how they're doing month to month and helping them pay the right amount of tax and not too much tax, definitely it's very satisfying to be involved with that and to feel that beyond the fact that obviously I'm earning an income as well, I'm helping people to grow and progress their businesses. But I wouldn't take anything away from the actual owner manager who's out there every day doing the do and making their own connections and making it happen. But that is the accountant's role. The majority of people in business are not accountants or tax people. They are good at doing what they do. So yes, but it's nice to walk alongside businesses. I've walked alongside a lot of businesses over the last 20 or so years, from them starting out to now being very successful large businesses, and the relationships are strong with those people because you've been there at the difficult times as well as being there now when they're doing well.
Yeah, fantastic. And the thing is with accountants, as my own experience is that you need someone that you can trust, that you can depend on. I suppose it's very rare you switch your accountant. From what I understand, you normally find someone that you actually gel with, you trust, and you work closely with. And I think it's great for entrepreneurs and business owners to have that relationship closely with their accountant for that reason, so that they can obviously get to know each other, because there's nothing worse than just producing a set of figures for somebody and then not seeing them for 12 months down the line. So when we hear that businesses are working closely with their accountants, I think it's fabulous. I really do. It shows forward thinking, in my view.
Yeah, definitely. And once you've got those strong relationships, you become a real sounding board as well. And you'll get phone calls about all sorts of things just to chat through. But you joke about it, but it's really relevant, because once you get to know the people and you get to know the family and what their aspirations are, and maybe the kids are going to go to university or whatever it is that you chat about, there's always an angle. There's always an angle that you can help people with. So having that once a year relationship is fine. That does happen. And some people, that's what they want. They just want the box tickets at the end of the year. They want to know what tax to pay, and that's fine. But the relationships with clients which are stronger and you know more about them, you can help them much more, definitely. And I think it's easier. I'd like to think it's easier the other way around, where people don't worry about picking up the phone or asking a question because they know Simon really well, so they'll just give him a call, rather than the ones, some clients worry that they'll pick up the phone and it'll just be complex, but it doesn't need to be.
Yeah, brilliant. Now, talking about starting a business. So if people are considering starting a business and they're concerned, they've got worries about making that transition, you can fit in that gap and help them to understand what they need to do to actually make that transition into the self-employment world.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's why we said it a little bit earlier. When you make that leap from employment to self-employment, it's a big one, and you won't know everything, and you'll do your own research, and then you'll convince yourself you've done the research, but you don't really understand it. So just having a chat with someone who's been through it before makes a world of difference. And I think, like I say, there are a lot of decisions to be made when you become self-employed. If you can have an accountant alongside who can help you get those things done while you concentrate on actually building the business and achieving whatever it is you want to achieve from your business, yeah, it makes a big difference, definitely.
Yeah, brilliant. Now, talking about your own business journey as a business owner yourself, I mean, how have you found the transition of being on your own as a business owner? Do you find it exciting and every day you can't wait to get out of bed, or is it always that like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Because running a business itself isn't all about tax, is it? There are elements to running a business, as we all know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been doing this for about 3 months on my own in Kettering, relocated back to Kettering, and effectively have been through the startup process. I say the point where you think, right, yeah, I'm going to do this, but hold on, I haven't got a brand, and what do I call myself? And well, perhaps I need a website, and I don't really use Facebook, and everyone's using LinkedIn, and where shall I go networking? It's all that stuff. The chair I'm sitting on was in a box 3 months ago, and I had to make it up from a flat pack. It's all that real world stuff, isn't it? Where am I going to have my office? Do I need an office? So I think going through that, particularly me recently going through it and having been through it a few times before, that's a really exciting bit for me. I love that. I think the life of a business, when you very first start, and it's a blank sheet of paper, and you think, right, here we go, let's do this. I personally find that really rewarding and really exciting. And coming out to the networking events which you run and meeting all the people, it's great. And I think that then you get, experience tells me, you get into the swing of it and you get busier, and that's really, really enjoyable as well. But what I've found as the business gets larger is that you get more detached from those relationships, and you get more detached from the day-to-day, and you go from doing what you loved doing, and which is why you did it in the first place, to becoming someone who's it's like a people manager. You get lifted above the actual work that you're enjoying doing. But so that's a great problem to have, isn't it? If you grow the business that large. But I really enjoyed building the business from the ground up, and getting out and meeting people and having those relationships. That's what gets me out of bed in the morning, definitely.
Yeah, it's definitely exciting. I mean, for me, I've been self-employed 13 years now. It's a case of get up, get out of bed. What's the day going to bring, and can't wait to get on with the day. And I think you can quite easily get lost in your own head, and I've been there as well. And get lost in trying to take on too much without, as you say, you're delegating out to people and managing the process and the people over trying to do it all too much. So. But what was it like the day that you had that first customer? What you remember the feeling? Was it like one of whoa, or was it why me sort of thing?
I think I actually stood up and punched the air, to be honest with you. I think
we've all been there with that one, I think.
Come on. Yeah, but it is though, isn't it? Because before you start, you think, I know I can do this, and I'm really going to enjoy it. But actually, I'm starting from scratch, and that. So when you do get that first client who you bump into it and they do phone you back, and they are genuinely interested. It wasn't just a chat at the event, or someone contacts you through LinkedIn. Yeah, of course, you do punch the air, you get excited, and that's what it's all about, though, isn't it? That's all part of the buzz and the excitement of being self-employed, rather than going and sitting in an office or a factory 9 till 5 and clocking in and clocking out. And it's. In terms of recommending self-employment, I think if you're happy with the risk that you're taking, I would say to everybody to do it. Definitely. Yeah. I mean, how many people have you met who became self-employed and wanted to go back to employment?
Oh, many. Many. And I'll be honest, there's been times on my own journey that I've looked at it and gone, why? And I actually rang a recruitment company must be about 8 years ago. And I knew the recruitment company. I'd met them through the networks. And I said, look, what jobs have you got? And he went, you're the last person I expected to hear from. He said, because, at the end of the day, you've got a drive, you want to get up and do things. He said, you're motivated. But I think for me, I just got to a stage, I went for a very bumpy journey. We'd lost a third of our turnover overnight. It was like, what do I do? How do I get around this problem? And I think that's the value in the networks, and which is why we're so passionate about the networks we organise, because somebody just turned around and said to me, "Do you remember your first month's sales?" And I went, "Yeah, £356.81." And they said, "Oh, what made you get out of bed for £356 of sales, not profit, sales?" And I just went, "Yeah, good point." He said, "You're moaning about losing, a third of your turnover. You started from scratch. Go and do it again." And those words will always live with me, because something made me get out of bed and work for probably about £89 gross profit, major losses in the first month, but something made me do it. And I think sometimes you just need that little bit of a reality check, and to get up and do it. And but even now, we still celebrate. A new client comes on board, we celebrate. We all work hard. We should be able to celebrate as well, and not be ashamed of it either. And I always talk about success being something you can celebrate every single second. So you break down the word, with the S being something and the U being the letter U. And it doesn't matter what success looks like to me. At the end of the day, if it's something I've set my heart on, set a goal, gone and achieved it, that's a success. It's not about the mansion and the car and the yacht and the private jet. To me, it's about getting a result and knowing that you've added value to somebody else. And I think that's what ticks the box for me every day. I love it. It's brilliant. It's great fun.
Yeah, definitely. I think you're right. Success is completely different to different people. Success might be working a 3-day week, mightn't it? Having a long weekend. It doesn't have to always be financially related. Absolutely. But no, what you're saying is absolutely right. I think the experience I've got of meeting people and people going into business, the people that are walking the streets and doing every last thing they possibly can, and really grafting and trying hard to get the business off the ground, the business flies. It's that there's a big misconception out there that self-employment is easy, and it sure as hell isn't. It's not just watching TV all day, is it?
Absolutely not. I mean, sometimes we'll have the TV on while we are working, I'll admit, but normally that's because we're working on a Saturday on Sunday. But there we go. But let's not go there with that one. But I think for me, I think over the years, I've always made sure I've surrounded myself with people. So I know if I do have those bad days, and having the guts to actually walk up to those people and say, "Look, I've got a problem here. What would you do in this situation?" And then you get different people's viewpoints, and then you take on board what people say. And I think, it's why we are passionate about what we're doing with not only the NMBM, but also other networks that we're involved with as well. And for me, it's a people's business at the end of the day, and it's a people's game. And I just think you can't ever stop learning when you're in this situation, and there's always someone somewhere that's been through that problem that you're experiencing. So for me, just being around situation, asking people what their thoughts are, what would they do in this situation, it's helped me so much. It's incredible. And I'm guessing you're finding the same yourself as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's one of the big benefits of the networking sort of scene as well, building your local relationships, because you do get a list, and you have relationships in there, but you get a list of people that you think, I don't know, my Facebook's really not working, but I met that guy at that event and I'll give him a call, he won't mind, and he'll help me out for 5 minutes. So there's this specific stuff where someone's a designer or a printer or whatever, and you can speak to them. But there's also most people in the room are all self-employed, so they've all been through the same stuff. They've had those bad weeks, and they've had the contract that they lost, and the opportunity they thought they'd won, but they never did in the end because someone beat them to it. So yeah, absolutely. I think particularly me now as well, working on my own, I think to have those sort of relationships, and even the camaraderie and the joking and the fun that you have at the events, it's a big plus to someone who otherwise goes to an office and sits on their own in the corner every day. So there's a lot to come from it. But you're right. Yeah, it's asking for help is you've got to do it. Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, I think sometimes, especially as men as well, we're a little bit frightened of it. But I think, for me, I've always, learned that early on: ask for help, shout about the problem, and see who can help with the situation, or who's got the solution. And I think that's what really helps, especially with some of the challenges and the motivational issues that some people can find when they become self-employed, because you can become complacent, you can become lazy. Everyone says year 3 is the challenging year. Well, actually, for me, it was year 4 and year 5. So it doesn't need to be, the same for everybody. And I think just reaching out for help occasionally, and, saying I've got a problem here, and also just test your business acumen as well. That's what I find, because people ask you questions and you're like, well, what do you do in the situation? Well, this is what I would do, and just crack on. So, but let me ask you, Simon, on the on your own business sort of side, you're obviously, you know, a very talented individual when it comes to tax and knowing what you're doing with people's money. But how do you find marketing your own brand and your own business? Because I mean, someone that's used to processing numbers and working with clients, all of a sudden now you've got to develop your own brand and your business. How did you, you know, learn to market yourself?
It's hard work. I'm an accountant. It's very hard to market as an accountant. Not only that, everywhere you go, there's accountants. So every networking event you go to, I mean, there's guaranteed to be another accountant in the room. And for networking groups where they're restricted trades, you just can't get in there. They're off the table. So there's that. There's there's the social media side of things. That's hard. I find that quite hard. I think I try to add some value and sort of like do tax tips and things to think about. But again, it's a tough subject to get across on what is quite a relaxed, sort of friendly social media platform, usually, particularly somewhere like Facebook, which is very family and friends. How do I do it? Ask people for help. I don't know. It's difficult. It's probably one of the harder ones for me, really. And I think particularly when you start up, pretty much everywhere you go, nobody knows you and you don't know anybody. And there will be groups of people that have been doing it for a long time and they all know each other. So I think it's a challenge, which is why I come along to an MBN and that helps me get through that challenge. But yeah, it's not a simple thing, I don't think, for anyone.
Yeah, I mean, before I came into self-employment, I was actually a management accountant. So I would sit behind a desk processing numbers and on a spreadsheet. And I thought it'd be an interesting question to ask on that, because to me, I'd never marketed a product, never sold a product. Everyone thinks, oh, you've been in sales for years. No, I haven't. You know, at the end of the day, I've had to learn to adapt and make that change. And, you know, it is a big change from, you know, processing numbers where you're maybe looking at historical data to all of a sudden having to create a brand and then take it forward and be the brand as well occasionally. So yeah, it is tough, but you know, hey, that's what we're about as a business. You know, helping people to make, you know, ideas and sharing our knowledge and experience with people. And you know, it'd be great when we get some decent quality times and sit and have a coffee. I can, you know, talk through ideas of what may help people that are in that situation where they don't actually understand, you know, what needs to be done. And that's for public speaking. My gosh, my first ever networking event, and you have to stand in public speaking. I'm like, oh my God, I can't do this. But you know what? You push yourself and you get the breakthrough at the end of the day. And I think for me, that's what's it's been a tough old long journey, but you know, where I am today wasn't where I was 13, 14 years ago. So it's all good fun, I think.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's interesting. You're saying there you have to push yourself, because we're at a networking event this morning. Someone was there who'd been there for the first time, and we were talking about when you go to your first event and you sit there and someone says, right, we're all going to stand up and talk about our business for a few minutes. You die, don't you? You think, oh, I don't want to do that. And then they start at the side of the room and you can see it working its way around the room to come to you, and you think, oh, I have to get up in a minute. I'll get to get up in a minute. And you do it and it's fine, because once you get it into your mind that all you're doing is you're chatting to some people that you were chatting to anyway, it's just they're all listening at the same time. It's not that bad, but yeah, first time definitely is a challenge. You were asking about marketing. What I found when I was training initially to be an accountant, I used to be an auditor, and they're the most unwelcome people in a business as it is, because it's a compliance-based necessity to have an audit when you're a business of a certain size. So you're not generally made to feel very welcome. From an accounts point of view, as you say, it's historical reporting. It's telling a client what they did 18 months ago, probably most of the time. And then from a tax point of view, everybody's suddenly interested. So I learned a long time ago that if you can actually help people and add some value and help them to pay less tax, not just the compliance, not just the reporting and doing what needs to be done, but actually help them to be in a better financial position, then that, if you like, is my niche. So I think, from going back to what you were saying about the marketing question, I think for anyone in business, find what your niche is and what people want to hear about. And that's what I would say is what you should be shouting about, because the other stuff will come along with it.
Yeah, fantastic. And that's a great tip there as well. So, yeah, thank you for sharing that, because, you know, when you start in the business, you got a lot coming at you. I was talking to, who was I talking to? Amy Prendergrass. When she was talking to me the other day from Work Chum, she was saying, it's like the fire hose syndrome. And I'm like, what? You know, she says it's like a fire hose being sprayed at you with all this information coming at
Knowledge.
you, and we don't know everything. Even after 13, nearly 14 years, I'm still learning. We're all still learning. So
Yeah.
none of us are the finished articles. Otherwise, we wouldn't be sat on a Zoom call talking about our journeys. We'll be probably sat on a yacht somewhere. But listen, Tom, thank you for obviously joining us on the Zoom and talking to us about what you get up to. I wish you every success with the business, and obviously.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work, and look forward to following your journey, the journey locally as well. So,
yeah, thanks very much, Simon. Appreciate the time. It's been nice to chat.